Jaws 50th anniversary. Jersey Jack Pinball delayed Harry Potter? Not really. Pinball Brothers Predator and CGC Cactus Canyon delayed. All that plus more. This is Loser Kid Pinball Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Loser Kid Pinball Podcast. I am Josh Roop. With me, my co-captain,
Scott Larson.
And Scott, we got quite the episode today where there's been a rumor mill just going wild, but there's plenty of games coming out, including Kong that just released, plus some other rumored games. Where are you going to get your games if you're buying these games?
I'll call Zach and Nicole Mini at Flipping Out Pinball. They've always hooked me up. I did just place an order, and so I'm really excited to get that. And I'm sure you're getting one too, right?
I am.
Didn't I hear that? So what are you getting?
Foo Fighters is officially leaving. I made a deal with Zach to do a trade-in. He gave me a heck of a deal considering the state Foo Fighters. It's not the physical.
They're not selling a lot, but it's still a great game. So,
but
he
Zach
gave you fair market.
He gave me very fair market value. He's taking care of shipping. Like don't know how he's going to make money, but hey, that's his deal, not ours.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Zach, for taking care of us. It's amazing. So.
Nice.
But yeah, okay, so like I just announced, there is a ton of stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yep.
First, let's talk Stern. Everyone wants to talk Stern, right? King Kong just released. People are loving it. The premium's amazing. You went out to the media day.
Yep.
I've heard nothing but positive about this game. I'm excited to get my Pro. It should be here next week.
Now, tell me about that, because we did talk back and forth. So tell me, now, first off, now you had Jurassic Park, right?
Correct.
Do you still have it? I can't tell.
No, okay. I sold my Jurassic Park.
Okay, but you had the Pro version, right?
Correct. And I thought the Pro was very good, especially for the price and everything. I felt like the premium didn't add enough features to justify the difference. And I felt that the code is amazing. Yeah. The thing about Jurassic Park, I feel like the code can get a little stale.
Okay.
I really think Elwin came into his own during Avengers. Like, I know people don't really like that code, but there was a lot of experimenting there that ended up making Godzilla what it is nowadays, and Jaws. And
with the ball paths too. I would say Avengers is really where he perfected the long ball paths and the visual candy that you see with the ball moving around.
Well, not only that, but like he perfected, especially with Godzilla and Jaws, the fact that just by playing the game you get rewarded, right? Like Godzilla is a great example. You know, I'm hitting Tesla targets on accident during a multi-ball. That's moving towards actual Tesla mode that can play in the background. Just stuff like that, you know, and he does that in Jaws too with the beachgoers and stuff like that. And that's really kind of started in that Godzilla era, but we're seeing hints of it in Avengers. And so like Kong is like a no-brainer to me. That's the thing is like, I really would like the premium because like the Kong figure is awesome. But as I sat down and really evaluated the game, the difference between the two, the Kong's not really much of a game changing feature, right? Like it is like this, the building on Godzilla literally changes the game, the ball pass and stuff like that. And the subway doesn't really it's cool. It holds the balls. It's a physical ball lock, but you're not really changing much to the game because of it. And really all the ball passes are the same. There's drop targets. I mean, and you're taking out the spider and the gong. And really the gong is like...
The gong is dangerous, actually. Yeah. But okay, we talked about this last time. We talked about that with the gong, the danger shot is on the right.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to get there. And the gong can actually mess you up. It can be, it can fight back. The gong can fight back. But on the premium on the left side, you have the spider that kind of grabs the ball. It's kind of reversed on the Pro. Like the left shot, that's a little more dangerous because it doesn't have the spider that comes down and grabs the ball. Yeah. And you get a lot more of that unpredictability with that shot.
Well, and like Elwin told us, like that actually is magnet controlled.
Yeah.
It's not on a coil or anything like that. I half wonder if you could actually just kind of buy a secondary market thing. If someone knows about a secondary market spider I could put on the Pro, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Okay, you should put one of those leaper jumpers like from Elvira.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Or do like a Stegosaurus or something like that. Like, I don't know. There's so much you can do with it.
Yeah.
But okay, so here's my question. I'm going to be asking this question throughout the whole episode.
Okay.
okay, Kong has released. It's only been out. They're shipping them now. Like the LEs have already went out, but we're finally shipping premiums and pros. But we've now heard the rumor, and it's where there's smoke, there's fire.
Usually,
Jaws 50th could be coming out in July. Is that a good decision or a terrible decision? Because are we cutting off the legs of Kong at this point with Jaws?
I don't think you are. Jaws 50. Okay, Jurassic Park 30. Now, they took some flack for this because they released it as an LE. Now, I've got the old LE over here, which is great. I love the look of it. They changed the look, they upgraded it, and so they did Jurassic Park 30, but they also did it like 5 years later? Like 6 years later? Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
And so my friend who actually sold me the original, Gary, when he sold me the Jurassic Park, he ended up buying the Jurassic Park 30th, that edition. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you have a special decal edition, now CERN has done this a lot. So walk with me on this. They had 2 Metallica LEs, right?
Yeah.
They had the Back in Black, and they had the Master of Puppets, right? Then you also had AC/DC. So they had the Let There Be Rock, and they had the Back in Black. Okay.
Yeah.
They also had the Lucy edition, which was kind of that, hey, it's a premium, but it's, they've done this with Batman, right? They had the Catwoman edition.
Yeah.
Okay. And with now I'm 100% certain that they pivoted, and with Godzilla 70th, they decided to go black and white and to put it at the premium. Yeah. I'm 100% convinced that was supposed to be an LE.
Yeah,
but they got blowback from the LE purchasers because they're like, you're devaluing my game because you're offering more LEs. Okay.
Yeah.
I am not one of those people who subscribe to that. I don't really care about having something that someone else doesn't. But I do understand the people who that they do value that. It's going to be a big deal. Okay. So that was different enough than the other Godzilla, and having the black and white with a retro Godzilla really fits the theme. Okay. So what are they going to do with Jaws 50th if they do that? Are they going to do it black and white? Because it's a 70s movie. It's not really originally black and white. Are they just going to have a different art package? Are they going to do... Is it really going to push people over to buy a Jaws if they haven't already purchased a Jaws? I don't think so. What do you think?
I don't know.
I think it'll sell. I do think it'll sell, but I don't think it's going to kill Kong.
So I don't think it'll kill Kong because, from my understanding, Kong is like the 3rd best-selling LE that has released in the last decade. Like,
I could see that.
It has just, the LEs have went out the door. They're all gone. Here's my concern. You have plenty of distributors and dealers who bought plenty of stock on King Kong, right? And they're sitting on this stock. They're slowly trickling it out. All of a sudden, you release a Godzilla 50th or a Jaws 50th.
Jaws 50.
Jaws 50th. And granted, it's limited quantities. Like, we're not going to be producing a ton of these, but still,
it's like a single run or a double run or something like that.
Yeah. But you're essentially pitting Elwyn versus Elwyn. Jaws is a more desirable theme, in my opinion, versus the King Kong that came out. I think so. I think Jaws.
You like Jaws over King Kong, huh?
I think theme wise, I do.
Okay.
I don't know about gameplay wise.
No, but I that's what I'm talking about, theme wise.
I think this.
I understand. I understand what you're saying and like marketability. I'm on the other side though. I look at King Kong and I think King Kong is a more desirable theme for me. Maybe not for everybody, but for me, I would rather have a King Kong than a Jaws.
But you just had dealers and distributors fork out hundreds of thousands of dollars. Fair. And then not even like a month or two later, it's like, surprise, we have another one. Yeah. Now fork out even more money, where we're having a hard time. Like, whether you want to talk about economics, whether you want to talk about like just inventory, and here's the thing, like Stern's making their money. Like, they're not slowing down because it's like, every time we release another hell one, it's money in the bank. But the problem is these are backing up at dealers, and if dealers don't know how to sell these or how to,
and if they don't
get them out the door,
if they don't have the ability to buy, I don't think it's gonna. If they do a 50th, I doubt it'll be a huge run.
Yeah,
I would suspect that they may be able to make, who knows, maybe 500 of these.
Yeah,
but how many Jaws? I guarantee they made 10,000 Jaws at least.
Yeah,
like Godzilla if they still released the figures on Godzilla could actually be on track to be one of the best-selling machines of all time.
Yeah, my understanding, it is the best-selling LCD Stern. So, and that's outdoing Star Wars of all things.
Which does surprise me, but it's
I could be wrong on those numbers, but just from my
but either
understanding,
way, there's a possibility that Godzilla could. And if they release the numbers, I would not be surprised. It's at least dominating the era.
Yeah, it's definitely dominating the era.
So the era, and the last time a single game dominated an era was like Addams Family or Twilight Zone, right?
Yeah.
And so we're talking 30 years later to get a game that has the same monster level appeal.
Well, and here's the problem too. Like Kong is really good. Like it's an L1. Like it's going to shoot amazing. You know what you're getting. The code's going to be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but here's the thing though. Like, so you've got Jaws 50th, then the rumored Star Wars, and I've heard on the Pinball show they talked about was the prequel trilogy.
I don't think it is. I don't think
hearing Emperor Strikes Back. I mean,
I don't think it is that either.
And some people are like, maybe it's Andor. Like,
okay, that's where I think it is.
And
I think it's Andor, because if you look at Mandalorian came out in the second season.
Yeah.
Okay. Andor, while it may not be as huge as the Mandalorian, if you look at the ratings of Andor, it is
through the roof,
the best.
Yes.
And when you know that this is they're only doing 2 seasons of it, and then it goes right into Rogue One.
So not only that, it's got the best reviews from the generation that's buying pinball machines.
Yes,
because it's 100%. Yeah.
And that and it's not even close. And actually, okay, I was interesting though, because I was interested because I heard Zach and Dennis talking about Obi-Wan, and I heard Dennis kind of dogging on Obi-Wan. I totally agree that the first 3 episodes were they were slow.
Yeah.
I would argue the last 3 episodes were really good. And by the way, if you don't get choked up at the end when he's fighting Anakin Skywalker, then you have no soul. I'm sorry. You have no soul.
So, okay. So Kong, Jaws is right behind it. We've got supposedly Star Wars at some point. We know that a remake's coming. The rumor is The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
This is all within from here to October.
Oh,
and
geez.
Then,
yeah. Whew.
I mean, and my understanding is too, because people are like, well, what's Borg doing? Is he obviously going to do Walking Dead? My understanding, he's doing double duty. He's doing the Star Wars title and The Walking Dead. So he'll have 2 titles released within a month or 2 of each other. And my guess, this is just an educated guess. Dwight has said multiple times, if it's a Star Wars theme, he's on code. Like, he's got seniority, and he
I don't know. I would argue let someone else try. Okay. Dwight, by the way, is the most passionate person you will ever meet in pinball.
Yes.
It's okay. I'll put it this way. If you are into Dungeons and Dragons, you want Dwight as the dungeon master.
Yeah.
Like, so he is motivated to do that. However, I would argue, okay, if Dwight did that, the last time Dwight and Borg teamed up,
Mandalorian?
Was that Munsters?
It was Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
In 2021.
I would just be surprised though if Dwight did 2 games in the year. That's a lot.
It is a lot, but if you look at it from this perspective, Dwight's more doing the rule set and some of the coding. Because like with D&D, didn't they have like 7 coders on that game or something like that?
Sure,
like,
but Dwight's also not known for fast development.
I agree, and obviously there's some game breaking bugs in D&D that need to be
But
fixed.
there tend to be. I love Dwight, but there tend to be exploits that high level players figure out really quickly.
It's not even exploits. Like, so the big rumor or the big thing right now is in D&D, if you get to like level 3 in the dungeon crawling
Yeah.
and you get like a specific creature, it crashes the whole game and it
Yeah.
resets.
Okay, but
So
but that's like that's more of a that's
game breaking bug.
actually nuts and bolts on the code.
Yeah,
That's not engineering the rule set and doing
true.
all that kind of stuff.
But my point being is, so Dwight's more than likely in my end. This is
Okay.
my educated guess. He's more than likely on the Star Wars title, and then my guess is Ray Day would be back on The Walking Dead, fine tuning
Right.
that.
Yeah, kind of doing the Metallica thing, like
Especially, well, that he's a high level player,
he's
and
a high
he
level
has
player. Well, he's also okay. I'm calling it out there. Ray Day is the heir apparent to Lyman on code. Okay, and this is me 100% respecting Lyman's legacy, respecting everything Lyman has done, and Ray Day has the chops to take it to Lyman level and maybe continuing along that path. I know nobody who looked at what he did with Metallica and felt like it was anything but an augmented rule set.
Well, not only that, like Foo Fighters behind me. I don't understand. If you're looking for a good game for your collection, Ray Day did an amazing job on that code set. I don't fully understand why people are like, for a pro, I'm only going to pay 4,000. It's like, why? Like the game it stands above the rest. It holds its own. The code is, in my opinion, right now,
it's good.
Number one is Keith Elwin with Rick Nagel. Number 2 is Ray Day. I don't know who else like that, and that's not a dog on anyone else. It's just they are that good, and they have a very amazing understanding of rule sets and how they should play with the player during gameplay.
You're not saying other people aren't doing a great job. What you are saying is that you connect differently with their rule sets. And you can argue very easily that many people connect with the Elwin product because he sells easily 50% of Stern's games. Okay. Now, Ray Day actually has done some interesting, he even made Led Zeppelin playable, because even though the layout is pretty bland, but he was able to do that with, and I know he was working with Tim on these things, but you have to understand that Ray Day is such an elite player that he thinks of all these things all the time.
Yeah.
And he is the embodiment of pinball. And so in many ways, that's a lot of how Lyman was. Lyman was always thinking about rule sets, tinkering on different things.
Yep. So back to my original question.
Okay.
Just one word answer. So is a good decision or a terrible decision that Stern is releasing what they are right now? And is it going to undercut Kong?
Good decision. In the grand scheme of things, I think they're competing for slightly different audiences.
Okay.
I'm not sure a 50th Jaws moves the needle like a 70th Godzilla did.
Yeah.
But it depends on what the art does. I mean, is Michael going to do a new art package for that, or is he? So art will change how people want to buy a package.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a new art package and he does something different, kind of like the Lucy edition or the Catwoman edition, then maybe people like, I want that art package. But we know the game. The game's a solid game. And it's not like people have bought it and sold it. The people who bought Jaws under the original art package already bought it.
Yeah.
And that's actually the one Elwin that I haven't bought because the theme didn't connect with me like the other themes.
Gotcha. Alrighty. Let's move on to the next one on our list.
You didn't tell me. Like, what did you think? Like, you asked me a question. Do you think it's a good idea?
Do you think
it's going to change? Do you think
I think it's a terrible decision. I think it puts way too much pressure back on distributors and dealers to take more product when the product that they have right now may or may not be selling.
I would argue it's not really a cornerstone. It's more of kind of like a vault edition. where it's a low volume. It's not going to be the same production level that King Kong is. I'm guessing. Okay, this is me throwing numbers against the wall. I bet that if you do a special edition like this, sells easily less than 1,000, maybe 500. That's still a good seller, but it's not going to change. They're making over 10,000 Kongs.
Yeah, true. Alrighty. Jersey Jack Pinball delayed Harry Potter. Supposedly, that's the rumor.
Yeah.
And not even 2 hours ago, Nap Arcade said, never mind. Apparently, they're still on track. We know very little when it comes to Jersey Jack Pinball.
Okay, they're very tight-lipped, and I think appropriately so, because we know that there are licensing constraints. And once you start announcing things, it typically triggers stuff in a licensing agreement. So if they start releasing things, then it can be challenging. We know that Stern got into a lot of challenging situations with Bond, because Bond was notoriously a challenging license to work with. It's because they're very jealous of their product and they want it to be reflected in a certain way. I guarantee Harry Potter is very hands-on, which can be a challenge if it took so long to get the approval from the estate to make this game. So it could take longer in development. What are your thoughts, Josh?
I don't know how to feel about Harry Potter, man. This whole thing it's so interesting, and I find it funny how people are like, this is gonna sell more than Kong, like 10-1 and all this stuff. But then it's like they can't produce at scale like Stern does. Like, so
it's going to be a while,
and people are just still getting their avatars like now. Like they're not even.
And okay, I am a fan of Avatar. Okay. I played it and I felt that it was one of those games that really drew me in. Like JJP knows how to have an immersive environment experience in a game. And that's what Avatar did for me. It felt like I was really in Pandora. Here's the criticism though. I mean, you're selling a collector's edition at $15,000, and my friend here just got his collector's edition Avatar $15,000 after they announced, don't buy anything, we're coming out with Harry Potter. You kind of missed the window on the buzz on the game. And I understand they're trying to produce the best thing, and they were making sure the ink printing was going to be the best with the lighting, and that seemed to be what was holding it up. But it's like Pulp Fiction, like the LE. My opinion is I like Stern's old way of doing it. Get the pros, set them out on location, because that's your test run for how you're going to produce it, and you're going to find the errors that way, and then go to the LEs, and then do some more pros and premiums. That's the best way of selling your game. But I don't understand why they push that toward the end. And Pulp Fiction LEs is the same thing. It's like, my gosh, Stern is going to release 12 games before they release the Pulp Fiction LEs out to the market for some people anyway.
Yeah, this whole thing is weird. Like the way that they've released it, the way that they've done everything with Harry Potter. It's kind of strange. What do you think of? So do you think it's a good decision, or do you think it's a terrible decision that they decide not to limit anything, that they're just gonna, like, they are, in the fact that like they're gonna make these, and then once they're done making them, they're shutting down the line. But like, there could be 10,000 CEs if they get,
Okay. I have already declared many times, having a limited amount of LEs doesn't matter to me. Okay. What I definitely want is for the market, for the best version of your product to be adequately satisfied. Now, what does that mean? I said it before. That means that you ideally produce one less than what demand is for. The worst case scenario is you produce two more, and then people are like, oh, there's tons of these around, and so it doesn't justify my price. But this is where, like, Metallica should have been 1,000 LEs, because the way they engineered the LE package, it was a better version. Just the art package was tighter. I like the presentation better. Now, you can still do a really good job with the premium and adding the stuff on and still getting a really close representation of it. But there is it's kind of like Cactus Canyon. Cactus Canyon without the topper, and I know a topper is just kind of this gimmick thing, but Cactus Canyon without the topper didn't sell, right? Yeah. Because it was that took it to a level, and once they were sold out, that's why they kind of scrambled and said, okay, now you can have the SE Plus because it has the topper now. I want them, if they have a potential of selling 5,000 CEs of Harry Potter, they should. And I want them to have that position of just saying, okay, you can order it up to a certain date and we will make that many. That is a smart move. And it sounds like that they're going to have, basically a pro premium, the 3-tiered system, right? Like Stern perfected it. Yeah. They're going to have the arcade level. They're going to have the whatever their mid-tier level is, and then the whatever their premium level is. I like that the market will dictate how many of these are sold. But
I agree.
What do you feel? Because again, I've said that numbers don't drive sales to me. I'm glad that Guns N' Roses LE wasn't really an LE. It was a premium, right? It was whoever wanted it could have bought it.
I think it's like I said, I can see this from both perspectives. I think it's a terrible idea just because I think if you don't limit this, you could get into some trouble with, like, you don't have the building capacity just to make as many as you want. And you have other licenses in the pipeline that have deadlines. Yeah, you can move them around and stuff like that. But there's a lot of weird things going on with this release, and it hasn't even released yet. Yeah. And I am nervous for Jersey Jack. But hey, they're the people that own and operate the company. Yeah, they can figure it out themselves. They are big boys and girls.
Sometimes having a monster license can be detrimental. And I was I am a huge Star Wars fan, especially for the first three, the ones that I grew up with, right? And I said hit or miss on the later stuff, but I still like the theme. When Star Wars came out, it didn't hit my expectations on what I wanted in the game. Like, I remember going over to my friend's house, we unboxed the LE, and it was the same time that I was playing his Attack from Mars LE downstairs. And I played Star Wars a few games, and I said, I want to go down and play Attack from Mars. So it's a hard level. It's the same thing as having a book that everybody has read. It's really hard to translate that into a movie because people will say, it's not how I envision it in my mind. So it's hard to translate a beloved theme into a pinball machine because unless you're having a linear rule set, then you're going to have to figure out ways of making all the encounters. Now, Jersey Jack they have code bloat, right? And they end up having like 200 different things in the game. And so it is possible they could put everything in this game. But that didn't help Hobbit. Yeah. So, are people going to be disappointed by the product? And that's a real uphill climb for Eric to hit.
That's true. Well, I wish them the best. Like, seriously, I'm excited to see what they've come up with. I like Eric's designs. I'm hoping this one meets the mark because there's definitely some pressure on this one. So,
but it should be their next Wizard of Oz. You remember how many runs of The Wizard of Oz they did? This should be their next evergreen title because there is so much to know.
Yeah. Alrighty. We've been getting teases for like the last couple days now. It's official. Predator's coming from Pinball Brothers. No, this is not a re-theme of ABBA like we were told. Like someone speculated there because ABBA does have like a helicopter and everything like that. No, this is its own original design.
I didn't even think about the helicopter being like they could reuse the ball lock. That's hilarious.
We know people that have seen this design. They're telling us it's better than ABBA, it's better than Queen. They don't know if it's better than Alien. How do you feel about a Predator pinball machine, Scott?
The theme's great. What they should do with Predator though is it should be a Pulp Fiction type era game. You know how Pulp Fiction, they came out. If you watch Pulp Fiction, it's kind of that odd 70s vibe, but still modern, right? And they still have cell phones, but it has that retro vibe, right?
Yeah.
So they made the pinball machine with a retro vibe to it. Okay. So what they should have done with Predator is they should have, and we don't know, we haven't seen it, but they should have had kind of an 80s, kind of like an 80s Bally Williams game. It should feel a little bit like that, maybe like a Congo where it's a little more retro, it's a little more stripped down rule set, kind of like a Lethal Weapon 3, where it's a lot more linear and retro. It's kind of like playing Contra on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Like, you know what you're getting. It feels very theme and era appropriate. So that's what I would do if I were doing this machine. I'm not sure the Pinball Brothers are self-aware enough to do that, though.
I don't know either. And like, I think it's a good idea to have a Predator pinball machine, especially where you own Alien. Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes hand in hand and whatnot. I just, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the 80s and whatnot. Is Predator as relevant now? Like, I feel like Alien is, because they're still making Alien movies, but Predator, I don't feel like they're really pushing the license or the franchise very much anymore. I mean, that's not a big deal. Like, obviously, there's sometimes you just want to make a game like Evil Dead that is a cult classic that has a strong fan base and whatnot. But I get like there's memes of Predator and stuff like that, but when I hear like the classics and the highlights and the epic themes that people want from the 80s, I do hear Predator occasionally, but I don't hear as much as other themes. So
the question is, did they get Arnold Schwarzenegger? Because if you do Predator, there's only one movie to do. You don't mess around with Predator 2. You don't mess around with Predator versus Alien. You don't do any of that.
What are you talking about? I like Predator versus Alien.
No, you're not going to sell that. For my age group, the guys who grew up on Predator, you want whatever, Dutch, isn't his name Dutch in the whatever? You want Schwarzenegger and Apollo Creed doing the bro handshake with their giant muscles, and you want the mystique of the Predator just looking like he's a monster that
you don't want Glover from the second one doing his thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be so bad if it were Predator 2.
I mean, it's like Alien, where they had Alien and Aliens, and you get to choose from the code. And
Predator 2 wasn't. I still remember that as being that happened.
It's rough. Yeah, it's rough.
It's but okay. So now, what do you feel about saying, okay, if you do this, really lean into that 8-bit, kind of that Deadpool retro feel where you're doing the fighting, but it's like a 90s, like Street Fighter 2 fighting. So I want to feel like this game was made in 1988 or whenever Predator came out. Kind of like T2, I guess.
Yeah. It was released in 87.
Okay.
I could see the retro vibe. That could be cool. I don't know. I think you do lean on the jungle. You lean on maybe some of that retro vibe and whatnot. I don't know. Honestly, like Predator doesn't do a ton for me. Like it's a really cool theme.
Okay.
I like Predator, but
I will argue though, if you're my age, Predator was huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
That show was awesome. And so if you're
looking
for the dudes that are like 45 plus, who are like, I want it's Predator probably had as much of a following in that era as T2 did. It was an iconic Arnold Schwarzenegger role.
So do you think it's a good idea or a terrible idea that they're doing Predator?
Well, I think the theme's great. However, it's like in in Olympic diving or Olympic gymnastics, right? You get a degree of difficulty of how much you can actually pull off. And if Stern did Predator, then I think it would be a really great license that they could really lean into. I just haven't played any Pinball Brothers games that I wanted to buy.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they're able to do something, and I'm hoping they're able to find like a way of proving me wrong, saying, no, you want this in your lineup. But so the theme's a home run. The company's still questionable in my book.
Same. And it, and the whole tariff thing plays into it. Like, Dutch kind of went off last month when the tariffs were announced, and they said that we're automatically going to charge like $2,500 to the customers in America for Alice. And it's just, it's turning into this like weird, like what is or isn't going to happen. Yeah. And so, overall, I think it's a good decision that Pinball Brothers went with Predator. I think it's going to draw more of an American audience outside of, ABBA. I think Queen should have been a home run, but it just doesn't play fantastic. And so,
are you optimistic about them making a game you want to buy?
No.
Yeah. Well, okay,
I'll be frank. No.
Well, okay, but that is ultimately the level that in today's market, you have to make something that people want to buy and put in their home. Right?
Right.
And because over half of their sales are to home environments. You're not going to make this marketable if you're just putting it in bars.
Yeah. Here's the other thing too. I've pretty much sworn off new inbox unless it's an Elwyn or it's a game that has been proven to be a great game.
Okay.
So like I would probably take a chance on a Cactus Canyon, maybe new inbox.
Sure.
Medieval Madness easily. Metallica, Walking Dead, I'd consider. Just seeing where the market's currently at, what it's doing, and everything.
A little more gun shy. You're gun shy because
I'm a lot more gun shy.
Yeah, because it's not 5 years ago. It's not 5 years ago where you buy a game and you can sell it for $500 more than you bought it for.
Yeah. Or even just take a haircut of a couple $100.
Right.
When MSRP on a Foo Fighters is $7,000, right, and they're not even selling for $5,000,
right?
It just becomes this like, well. And don't get me wrong, I think Foo Fighters is an amazing game.
It's a great game.
I don't understand the concept. But here's the thing too. So I messaged a location operator, and he usually buys my games, and I said, hey, this is what I'm selling it for. And he's like, I think I'm going to pass. And then like 3 weeks later, I said, I dropped the price. Are you still would you be interested at all? And he said, no, we're going to hold off right now. So I messaged him today or yesterday, said, this is my bottom dollar I'll take for it. If not, like it's going to Zach. And so he's like, Josh, to be entirely honest, Foo Fighters is doing nothing for us on location. It's a terrible earner. He's like, I don't want anything to do with it. And it's like,
that's because music pins have to be in a home environment. They do. Just because unless you have a headphone jack, because music pins are heavily reliant on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to get a good soundtrack on location that unless it's a Metallica, it's I doubt even Iron Maiden does great on location.
Yeah.
and it's an Elwyn.
I talk to a lot of operators and they say it's hard to route music pins. They just don't do well on location.
Unless you're Metallica. Metallica probably does.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So,
but it's, Aerosmith, maybe not so much. AC/DC probably. But it is more miss than hit in the on the music pins for location.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's move on to our very last topic. CGC Cactus Canyon Delayed. It sounds like that the remake extended kit with the doors and the code and yada yada. I was originally aiming for end of May, beginning of June, but it has been postponed. I didn't exactly see how long, but it's CGC, so it's probably like we'll see it at Pinball Expo.
As long as CGC puts out a good finished product, then they'll be fine. Because people are willing to give them a slight pass. I'm not going to say a full pass, but they're giving them a slight pass as long as the quality is up. Once their quality, or if their quality drops off, then they're going to be in a world of hurt.
And here's the thing, though, like their quality is slipping. Like I don't.
It is. There were more issues with Cactus Canyon than there were with the other games.
And there was more issues with Pulp Fiction. There has been with others too. And like, it's not just like, here's the thing. I will excuse wire forms being not bent the right way. It's easy to adjust. Adjusting a coil or bending a switch when the cabinet's separating,
right. And we
I haven't heard playfield issues. Yeah, we personally saw
at the game at the one at Logan Arcade.
Yeah,
the back box was separating. It was like I would be nervous. Like that needed a whole bunch of like super glue and Bondo to keep that thing together.
Well, and you've had a big turnover rate of the people that worked at CGC, and it's almost like a whole new crew came in last year too. Yeah. So the question is, as we're getting these products out the door, like, are they changing where I'm hearing more and more that we're changing quality on that. So I don't know. We asked.
I hope not. We're hoping to get our hands on a kit soon because I have a Cactus Canyon LE. And Josh has been out to my house many times to play these games. So
yeah,
I would love to get my hands on the kit and put it in, and then we can see, because it does have a significant code upgrade. And they're calling it the code complete now, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so and what Josh has done, we want to have Josh on. Josh, we actually messaged Josh when everything was done. He was like, "Yeah, we can do it." And then there was so many things, but I want to give it. I want to give the interview when it's getting a little closer, so we can actually talk more about it, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'm hoping that this ends up being like a really cool upgrade for Cactus Canyon.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Yeah, it's just. I feel like CGC is starting to slip. It's funny, like a few years ago, I firmly believe CGC was like in the number 2 spot, even above Jersey Jack. Between their timelines, now their quality is starting to slip. Like I need some reassurance that things are getting a little better. But it doesn't matter because Medieval Madness sold out in less than 24 hours.
And I hope that they take this as hey, we'll do the Merlin. I am disappointed that they don't have a standard edition right now, but I would not be surprised if at some point they're just like, okay, let's just do a standard edition.
Yeah.
And I actually just bought a rental down in St. George, and I was hoping to get a standard edition to put down there. So I guess we'll see. Maybe I'll put
and they're still doing good. Like I'm not saying like they're bombing completely.
Okay. Yeah, they're not falling apart, but it was when you bought the other machines, they were bulletproof. Yeah. You're just seeing typical things that you see with all manufacturers, right? And that's the only thing. I ordered a Merlin, so I'm planning on swapping my game out for a Merlin edition. Nice. So that is, I'm still a big CGC fan, and what CGC is making, what JJP is making, what Stern's making, and really even Spookies creeping up into that solid build category.
I am getting more and more and more of a believer in Spooky.
Yeah.
What they're doing is right. They are on the right path. And here, I'll give friendly advice to anyone out there that is a pinball manufacturer that isn't Stern. If you want to start making more money, this is going to sound counterintuitive. You're going to have to give better margins to your dealers and distributors, because people aren't going to sell your product if they're not even making half the margin they are on a Stern Pro. Right. So if you're having issues moving product and stuff like that, you might want to consider. I'm not saying give price off to the end consumer. Your B2B, you've got to start figuring out that relationship a little better if you want to start weathering some of this economic storm that we're seeing right now.
Yeah. So. Well, Stern also, they make up for a lot of this with volume.
Yeah.
Because Stern, you add up all the other companies, and Stern still sells 4 times as much.
Yeah, but Stern sells that much too, but they also have the best margins in the industry.
Yeah.
And we've known this for years. At least us behind the scenes have.
Yeah. The incentive for the dealers to sell a Stern is higher than it is to sell another game. Yes.
So,
but I don't know if they can do the same thing as Stern just because their volume is a 20, but add all the other ones up and they still only make 25% of the market.
You can't tell me that a Jersey Jack can't offer a little more margin to their distributors.
Maybe, but there are cost cutting things that people would not like to see. And so it's this fine line. It's this fine line of trying to make sure that your dealers are not overloaded with inventory.
Yeah.
Because as you're a dealer, you want to buy a game and you want to move it out the door in less than 90 days.
Yeah.
That's how you want it to be. And if you're sitting on a game for a year, then that is death for a dealer, because that is, that's $5,000 to $10,000 they could be using on something else.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to leave the conversation there. It's late. It's past midnight. We kind of stayed up late tonight to record because it's been a while, and Scott's leaving out of town. He's leaving out of the country on Saturday, so we figured better get one out before he leaves for 2 weeks. So
yeah.
If you want to get a hold of us, we are loserkidpinballpodcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us on all the socials at loserkidpinball. We appreciate your support. Those that have supported us on Patreon, thank you again for signing up for our content and saying that we are worth your dollar. And also, big shout out to Flipping Out Pinball and for all they do to help sponsor us. Scott, give us our last words.
You know what? Seriously, check out the Silver Ball swag right now. The shoes are great. Right now, we're in a tariff window where the tariffs are lower, and so go ahead and get the shoes.
They're not there for the time being.
Yeah. So. But like I've been having my my big high tops. They look great. They're fun, and I will say it's amazing how many times I'm wearing my pinball shoes. And I get random comments on my shoes all the time, not from pinball people, just like, hey, those are cool things.